Hello, I'm live. I am calling from 200 Lex, and this is 52 weeks of design. I just got here, and today we have the most excellent Christopher Spitzmiller joining us, newly published author, Christopher Spitzmiller, and it wouldn't go amiss if you immediately bought his book, because well, it's got to get bestseller status. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying we all got to do it. It's also, I always think Mother's Day, the best thing for Mother's Day is a great book. And this is certainly an example of a great book that somebody who loves beauty would want to see. There he is. It says unable to join. Why? But why? But why can't he join? Seriously, Christopher, why, hold on, let me see if he saw that. That was weird. Cristoforo. Hi. Hi, everybody. I got my hair done for you. Thursday, I have reliably good hair thanks to 52 weeks. It's a thing. Okay. Maybe he's trying. All right, so let me tell you about the book while I try this again. It is, oh, there he is. It is called A Year at Clove Brook Farm. And if you don't follow Chris on Instagram, you absolutely should, because he is amazing. Amazing and yet not clicking in, which makes him less amazing. No, it doesn't. So if you follow him, if you don't follow him. And he's just like, you know, what I wrote in the blurbage is that he is like a polymath for the good life. He has his own chickens. He grows his own food. He obviously, we know he's an acclaimed potter. And he's also the person who makes all of our work beautiful because of his divine lamps, which is just skimming the surface of his talent. Hi, Christopher Spitzmiller. Please request to join. It says Christopher Spitzmiller is unable to join. It actually, yes, this is a gap tee, arc to arc. You know me, I'm a gap girl. And this is my favorite, one of my favorite colors. You know what, guys? Maybe I'm gonna turn this off. I'm gonna call him again. Wait, yeah, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm just gonna do it here. Send request. Maybe this will work. You'd think after 400 million of these, I would be. Thank heavens. Okay, I can't see you that well. Okay, I'm pulling back. Hi, how are you? That was
very good.
That was dramatic. Congratulations.
Sorry, I don't know what the problem. I've done this before. It's happened.
As have I. I think I have like a little gray cloud over my head when it comes to these, because this is not the first time I've had trouble. But anyway, on to more important things. The magnificent Christopher Spitzmiller. I received your book. I'm so excited. As I was just mentioning, I think Mother's Day is the perfect gift for Mother's Day is a beautiful book. It's something that they can have forever. It's something they can enjoy immediately. It's like the perfect amount of money. Everything about it is great. So I think everybody's mother needs to receive A Year at Clove Brook Farm. Also, hey, Claire Potter. Claire Potter is going to be making me a custom bouquet, all of anemones.
Wow.
She doesn't know this yet, but one day
Wow.
she's going to do that. I know you're going to do it, Claire. I know it. But anyway, tell us about the book. Everybody knows who you are because they know your lamps. No room is complete without one. Oh,
so
true.
I wanted to do a book on what I do up at the farm, an inspirational book that educated people the way I've sort of educated myself on gardening, entertaining, of all the things country life, keeping chickens, collecting, everything I do up there. Yes, it has my lamps in it, and yes, there are my dishes in it, but I really wanted it to be an
No,
inspirational book.
it's a slice of life for sure.
Yeah. You know, my two probably biggest mentors in it would be like Bunny Williams' book, Affair with the House, and Martha's first book, The Entertaining Book, which are still in the top 100 of their category selling. And
Sure.
Martha's book's been out forever, and Bunny's book's been out for 15, 17 years, which is pretty much forever as well, too. So it's like a long time. And so what I hope to do was get a bigger audience than our interior design audience by grabbing on these other topics of raising chickens.
And it's more of a story.
Yeah, it's more of a story, and it's more of a complete life. It's not just that one part of it. It's other things too. So
what are your favorite parts about it? I obviously have seen it. I go to sleep at night holding it in my arms.
You know, I like.
By the way, for Michael, who just asked, Biden custom lamp for the White House already has them. They first appeared in the White House for the Obamas, and I'm sure they went into the permanent stock, right? Because they were in the Oval Office.
Yeah, no, I was an intern for the Clintons all those years ago. That was my first sort of official Washington, D.C. job. And
Really?
When the Clintons left the White House, they bought a lot of lamps for their Chappaqua house and for their house in Washington. So they were my first presidential clients. And then the George Bushes purchased things for the upstairs. And then we made a lot for the Obamas under Michael Smith. And I made some things for the Trumps, the things that we did
Really?
for the White House presidential box in the Kennedy Center. We outfitted them with, I can't remember, 6 or 8 lamps were in there, which I don't think he ever saw because they were shipped right as the COVID was hitting and all that. Right. So,
by the way, I love anybody who uses the definite article and says the COVID. It cracks me up. It tickles me. So thank you for mentioning the COVID. So you're in the White House. Actually, you know, you have a very, and I do ask this of everybody because I love these stories, but you have a really interesting start because, you know, we get a lot of stories from designers saying, you know, my parents wanted me to be, you know, a doctor, a lawyer, and that struggle. And, you know, I can just imagine that saying I'm going to be a potter is even more stressful. You know, who would ever imagine, you know, who would be so bold as to imagine total world domination such as you have attained?
Well, when I told my mom I was going to be a ceramics major, she pulled the car over to the side of the road and she said, honey, you need to find something to do that's a little bit more lucrative. And I completely understood what she was saying. You know, I got it. But at the same time, I saw people out there like Simon Pierce had already started and had a booming business. And there were other people who did products in a big way. And that was my thing.
Did Simon Pearson isn't that just glass?
No, he does pottery as well, too. He's more known for the glass, but there's ceramics are hand in hand with what they produce up there.
So how had you even gotten to the point where you knew it was a major that you wanted, and where did you go to school that it was a major?
Well, I started at Proctor Academy in Andover, New Hampshire, and they had a good ceramics program, and that's where I became a major in it, which was sort of a misnomer, meaning it wasn't taken as an elective class. It was taken as a class that you got a grade in, and so that was what shocked my mom all those years ago because I was still in high school at this point.
Yeah.
I went off to St. Lawrence University that had a ceramics department, and I could do whatever I wanted to do, and they gave me a 4.0 and it was good, but I needed a little bit more kick. And so I did the Rhode Island School of Design summer program, and then I went back as a visiting student. And then St. Lawrence has a London program, and in London I talked my way into Central St. Martin's, which is this great art school over there. So I sort of engineered myself a little ceramics degree while staying in the confines of a liberal arts education. So.
And what was it that spoke to you? I mean, I'm sure a lot of things about it speak to you. But...
Well, from when I was really a little kid, the idea that you could make something, whether it was a bowl that you would put on your parents' dresser or on the side table, and it was a gift and it enriched people's lives. And like, that's the thing that I still relate to today in what I'm doing and making is we're making products that enrich people's lives and make them better in some way or another, whether it's lamps or the tableware or a mirror. So
a mirror. You're making mirrors?
we make mirrors.
For how long? Forever?
About 4 years now, I think we've made mirrors.
Well, thanks the bleeping, you know, I did not know that.
Yeah, they're on the website, and we can do anything custom as well too. There's a lot of different sizes. We do rounds, we do ovals. We haven't done many sort of rectangular, you know, ones. They've been more
Is that
round.
harder because you have to do a mold?
No, we make a wooden frame, and we adhere onto the wooden frame like ceramic, like little dots and balls that are all different colors. Or I do make a ceramic frame and put like geranium leaves on it, or do something sort of different like that. There was a Kip Space showroom that Harry Heisman did that had a big gold mirror in the bathroom. Remember when Alex did that big fancy room in the front? It was in that one.
Absolutely. The one
maybe
on
3 years ago now, I think. You know.
It was on 61st.
Yeah, in near Barney's down like low.
It was like half a block away from my office. Terribly convenient. And also the location of our famous lunch when we discussed the burgeoning business.
You see what's in the background? There's right behind me. I'll show you. I have 2 of your father's paintings.
Oh, that's so
one
great.
there and another one there. They live out here on my thing all the time. I didn't pull them out just for today.
That's amazing.
There's a couple more in Millbrook. I bought one of Bill Blass's dogs, and there's another one of Albert's house in Maine that I've got up there. So it's with great pride that I have 4 of his watercolors.
And you are a real, you know, like you are very much in the decorator's firmament. You are great friends with Mario, and I saw your sweet mention of him in the book. Great friends with Albert. You said in your questionnaire, Harry Heisman, you know, is a god to you, a god of love and friendship. And yeah, I mean, you might as well be a designer as far as I'm concerned. Right? I mean, watching you build your pool house, and you know, you can isolate the threads of influence in your work, and it's really amazing.
Yeah, I wrote the foreword to a book that Ashley Whitaker is going to have coming out in September, and in there I wrote, I've known more than a few decorators in my time.
Yeah, definitely. So you were in DC when you started out, and at what age did you say, all right, let's go?
So how old are you when you graduate from college? You're like 23. So in the
new day and age, everyone's like 47 when they graduate.
No,
from
I was young. I was young, and I moved down to Washington, D.C. I had a friend from St. Lawrence who had an apartment that I was going to be roommates with, and I just chose it out of like, why not? And I moved down there, and I was looking around for this elusive job, and no job was showing up. And the roommate was friends with the White House intern director, and she said, well, why don't you come be an intern for us? And I said, sure.
What job were you looking for?
Something in PR, something in maybe an art gallery, something, you know, that, you know, because my mom was telling me I had to find this lucrative job. So I needed to find this.
And of course you thought gallery.
Yeah. Yeah. Or PR, you know.
Yeah.
So I did this, and I looked for this, and I did it for a while. And then a friend had a store in Georgetown, and he offered me a show of my work. And so I stopped working, and I got together this group of things, and I had this show, and the show went tremendously well. And then Mac Hoke was opening Mecox Gardens, and he invited me to come out and be Potter in residence. And I packed up my car and my kiln, and I drove out to the Hamptons. And every piece I made that summer either broke the minute it came out of the kiln or shortly thereafter. So it was really, really vexed. But I always say, as an artist, you have to be 100% committed to what you're doing. And at RISD, they said, if you can do anything else, you probably should do it, you know, because this is such a hard path you're about to embark on.
Did they say that to everybody, or just
in ceramics? They certainly said that to everybody. Yeah, and
that's also crazy when you think of the impact that, say, you and Jonathan Adler have had on the past many years in the
work like I do, to working for interior designers, for making products. They wanted us all to be artists. And there was a ceramics artist who lived in New Jersey at that time. And I think she made like $35,000 or $45,000. And this was a lot of years ago. But I remember thinking to myself, that's not enough. Like, I don't know what the number is, but I need more than that to support myself. And so I don't know. Anyway, I took a leap of faith, and other people believed in me more than I believed in myself back then. Mac, Albert Hadley, Richard Keith Langham, who ordered the first lamps. So that summer, you know, I was going back to Washington, having borrowed $200 from Mac Hoke to get my butt back there. But I had the first lamp orders from Keith, and I went back to Washington. I made the lamps and boxed them up, and he ordered more.
Yeah,
and
I
then
forgot the whole Keith.
Tom Pheasant came along, and then Albert came along, and then Barbara Berry came along. And like, I always say when I'm talking, like, I remember back then having those 3 or 4 good clients and saying to myself, if I only had 3 or 4 more clients, everything would be fine. And, you know, and now we make things for everybody and their sister, and things are not fine. There are problems every day. It's just a different sort of set of things. And, you know, it's just, it all just evolves. And I'm very happy to be where I am. I'm not complaining for a minute.
Yeah, I was about to be like, you want to tell us?
You know, everybody looks at everybody else's lives and says, oh, he's got it all. And I'm like, I've looked into some pretty high up their lives, and there's still issues.
It is just really impressive to see somebody with a talent who says, apparently against a chorus of naysayers, I'm going to do this. And you've done it so well, and you have not made a concession to your art. And obviously the book shows us that your art really extends beyond, you approach living like an artist. Yeah. Which is very exciting. Also, you know what I think is one of the greatest things about your lamps that we've talked about is their color. I think your eye for color. I think you should have a paint line, because I feel like you see color much more clearly than, like, you just know what is exciting and beautiful. How did you know, how many colors do you offer?
We offer 75 colors in our regular spectrum of things, and then we will do a custom color if that's needed. We're always game to doing whatever. We're a completely custom shop, so we'll make anything. I sort of refer to myself as a ceramic prostitute. If some money's involved and a ceramic piece is exchanged, I'm game. You know.
Yeah, totally. So you move to New York. You get a few clients. How long did it take to really get up and running, and what year are we talking about?
So I started the business in 1996, and I moved to Manhattan in 1999. It was October of 1999 that I moved up there. And, you know, my mother was like grasping her pearls, like, is he going to make it there? Like, it's such a tough city. And I rented this big studio, and it was $3,500 a month. It was near where I am now. I was on 9th Avenue and 37th Street. Now I'm on 35th Street between 7th and 8th. I've been in the garment district this whole time. But I rented this big studio, and I didn't know how I was going to pay that. I was like, you know, that's a lot of money, but I figured it out, and I had some people who were helping, and I got some more people. I mean, that was the hardest moment, was sort of like restaffing myself, because in Washington, I had 3 or 4 people who knew what I wanted and knew what to do and their responsibility. So we had to rebuild that part of it in New York, and that took a little bit of while. But I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say what there have been ups and downs. There was that moment of the Obama's White House lamps when Michael Smith came to my studio and showed me a rendering of them in the middle of the 2008 recession. Yeah. And Claire says about that, she's like, you might as well retire now that you've achieved that. Like, it's just not going to get.
Please don't retire.
So, no.
So that's 2008. So in between there, when did you open your studio in the D&D?
We opened the studio in the D&D. It's been closed for 2 years now, and so we had it for 5 years. So it would have been 7 years ago that we had it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, we have that big studio in Midtown Manhattan, and I really want people to go down there and see how we make stuff. If they want to come.
You don't need a place.
So we
We
did
all know
this
where
D&D,
you are.
and there was like no bad blood or anything, and it was fine. But I was like, we don't really need to have this outpost because people know where I am, and I always say that to artists. Like, if you've got a really good product, people will find it wherever you are. So you don't have to have a Madison Avenue dress or whatever. You can do it from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Well, and now we've learned it. Now we've all been forced to learn it, which is, interesting. How much of your business is online?
It's still largely a telephone, internet ordering system, and I take responsibility for this because we have not yet upgraded our buying capacity to encompass decorators and to give them, a trade discount in there, that we don't have that capacity yet. So people go on and buy things, but these are largely people who are buying dishes and people who are buying lamps in a town where we don't have availability. So largely people either work with the showroom in their town or they call us directly. We all sell at the same price, so there's no differentiating like who you get it from. So it's a level playing ground. And people buy stuff from Kate, Meacock's Gardens in Manhattan, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I bought this thing from Kate," and I'm like, "I don't care, just buy it." We sell
Kate,
things from John Roselli's showroom too, and they're like, "Well, why did people buy from us if they can buy it from you?" And I'm like, "It's sitting there," and like they see it and they, take it away, and I'm all for that.
Kate being Kate
Kate Brodsky,
KRB NYC, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So putting aside the ceramics for now, tell me about the book. What was the process? I mean, I assume it took at least 2 years for you to get a year at Clove Brook Farm.
It took 3 years because, believe it or not, it was kind of hard to get a publisher to commit to doing it. So we did the initial sort of like pitch thing, and it took a while, and finally it got to Rizzoli's hands, and Rizzoli grabbed onto it pretty much immediately, which I was surprised because we had some resistance. Other publishers wanted me to do a book about my lamps in, say, your designs or in Jamie Drake's designs or in Bunny's, and to have it be sort of more of a catalog-y kind of thing, which I didn't want to do. I was like, that's too commercial.
No, and it's not personal to you.
It's not personal, and I had this dream of doing this thing, and I stuck to the dream, and I waited a while patiently, and we would take some more pictures and move things around. Like in the beginning, we had much more food in the first thing, and the publishers were like, "Oh, you got to reel back off of this, and you can have 2 recipes for every season." And I was like, okay. And so Rizzoli and I came to a good agreement, and once we had it in there, they sort of let me do it. And I used these photographers that come from LA, called Andy and Gemma Ingalls, who are incredible, and take those great close-ups of the dahlias and I mean, they took like 90% of the pictures in my book, and they were great to deal with, but they were in California, and so we had to like time it so that they would be there for like a peony bloom. So I would then be
So how many times did they come to you?
45 to 100 peonies, putting them in the refrigerator and refrigerating them for like 2 weeks, which I had no idea you could do, but like I did it, and the peonies looked wonderful. And some days it would rain, but the majority of the shoots that we did were one-day shoots, so it was pretty nice to get it done.
I'm sorry about the very loud siren going down Lexington Avenue. Now let's talk about the cooking, and let's talk about your productivity. First, give me an average day in the life of Chris Spitzmiller.
So I wake up, I spend some time in bed, I have some tea there, I answer emails and talk to friends.
At what hour?
And then I get out of bed. And
what hour are you waking up?
Oh, I wake up at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. is my wake up time. Some mornings a little bit earlier. I got up at 6 a.m. this morning, but as I swear to God, I get a good 8 hours of sleep. I really do. I just make the hours in the day go further. And I think largely there's a pad that is beside my bed, and there's that flood of things that come to your mind of things that either didn't get done today that need to get done tomorrow, and I scribble those off, and that helps me like start in the morning and be like, you have to go to the flower district. Anyway, back to the thing. So I exercise then after I get up.
What do you exercise? What kind of exercise?
I run. I do a virtual thing with my trainer. I have a new Peloton bike that I'm trying to break in because I used to love spin classes a whole lot. You know, anything. Sometimes it's just a walk with the dogs out on a gravel path near me. So all kinds of stuff like that. And then so I come back, have some breakfast, and then, you know, depending on what's going on and where I'm needed, like sometimes it's like client relations, other times it's like I can sit down and make something. You know, part of the week I'm up in Millbrook where we make plates and dishes and larger sort of accessory pieces. And then the other part of the week I'm in the city. So I'm down at the studio on 35th Street making things there. I mean, that's the one silver lining of COVID is I get to spend more time up in Millbrook and see the sequential blooms that go on up there. So
that's really where your heart is.
It is where my heart is. And I was thinking about moving up there. And I was in the process of buying a building that I was going to move part of the business to, and the building didn't appraise out for the amount that I was willing to pay for it. And so I looked at it like God speaking to me saying, like, I'm not hugely religious, but I think when something's vastly difficult and, you know, you just sort of back away from it. And I backed away from this, and I'm glad that I did, because I like getting in the car and I like spending a couple of days in Manhattan with the different group of people. And Anthony's up there at the farm with the geese and taking care of things. And he's opening up a garden store up there that's going to open up in the beginning of April that we're very excited about. Yeah. So.
And what was, I mean, did you have access to a farm when you were a young boy?
Yeah, when I was really little, we lived on a farm and we had an incubator, and my dad hatched chickens from eggs that we got from local farmers, and we raised the chickens, and we had goats, and we had a little goat cart, and we had a really sort of rural life. And then we moved down to outside of New Orleans for a couple of years, and then my parents divorced and my mother sort of moved into suburbia. And in suburbia, I would do the same thing, but when the birds got to be sort of grown up, I would send them back to a farmer, and the farmer would raise the birds
and then kill them. No.
Yeah, but I would like keep them for as long as possible. So I remember a set of ducks that I had in my garage, or my mom's garage, for like far too long, you know. As much as I love geese and everything, ducks are especially smelly. I don't know why, but they really, really are. And I do my best to keep them clean and everything, but still it's challenging. So then anyway, I moved to Washington, D.C., and I spent a lot of years in Charlottesville, Virginia, that I fell in love with, that sort of rolling countryside. And Jamie Creel has been a friend of mine since my Washington days, and his parents had a house up in Millbrook. So that was what introduced me to being up there and falling in love with that landscape and the crazy people that live in Millbrook, which are sort of similar to the crazy people.
Yeah, it's a hub. It's a hive.
Yeah.
So let's list some of the people. So I'm making you do it so I don't get in trouble. So who are the people that live near you?
Well, I mean, Ashley and Andrew and their child, Andrew, basically live in my house, or I live in their house, because we spend so much time together. You know, we see an awful lot of Katie Ritter and Peter Penoyer. Markham and James are up there. Bunny and John are not very far. Carolyn Rome is not very far. Martha's 50 minutes away from me. And there's endless other creative type people that are not coming to my mind right now who are close friends.
Right, but it really is. It's such a magnet for creatives.
Oh, Nick Olson lives right down the street. It's oddly weird because it's very solitary up there. And I always tell people when they're buying a house that you need to find some sort of vocation for yourself. Like it can be watercoloring. For me, it's gardening and the birds. Sometimes it's cooking, you know, because, you know, I've spent a lot of years out in the Hamptons, and I like like it out there, but that's like a whole nother level of socialing that goes on out there than goes on up in Millbrook. So it's a little quieter, but you know, we do something every Saturday night and have people over for lunch all summer when the pool's open. It's really nice.
So in your book is the the recipe for the most delicious cheese souffle that I was lucky enough to. Oh, by the way, full disclosure, I have a set of Chris's plates, the beautiful purple splatter plates. And I, it's so strange just thinking about everything that you do that I wish I could do and I can't because I'm too scattered or, you know, don't have talents in those areas. Everything you do is about like nurturing something yourself, whether it's making, you know, throwing a beautiful pot or creating, you know, you said when we had that dinner, you said you had been working on that recipe. You were like, oh, this is my whatever number iteration and I'm fine tuning it. Like it's clear that you deep dive and it's so interesting because I just feel like you must never have a boring day.
Well, I am obsessive compulsive in the best sense of that word.
In a productive way, yeah.
In a productive way. In a, you know, I mean, there are some non-productive parts of it, I'll admit, but like I try and take all of the things that are sort of like in my mind and going all the time and work them so that they can be profitable in some way. And it's not always a monetary profitable.
Yeah, but it does not seem as though that's your big impetus. It's you're doing something for the love of doing it, and then you find a way to make it profitable. You know,
yeah.
you're not just driven.
Even like with that, like we just started to make some dog bowls that are at KRB, and it's like, you know, the dogs need bowls, and I want them to drink out of something as pretty as I would drink out of, and everybody loves to spoil their dogs, so like a whole nother product is born out of that.
Do you have dogs?
We have a lot on the cover. There's a Cavalier King Charles Fanny, and then there's Lion right there.
I was too busy looking at your handsome face.
I think you met the dogs. Were they not in the apartment when you came over?
No, I really was focused on the cheese souffle. Really, and I think I bought a purse from you know from someone at dinner. That's very strange sounding. Yeah, it's. I think I'm like slowly getting pulled into life in the country. First, now I've got my first dog, and also being forced to be somewhere during COVID. Oh, somebody's asking you, did the dog bowl start out for your geese?
Well, the geese do have a dog bowl. They do. They have it's a geese bowl, and they have a fancy one out there. And I think I've shown a couple of pictures of the inside of their thing, and you can see that. I think it's a brown marble bowl that the geese eat out of every day. And they've just begun to lay eggs. Yesterday, we got the first 2 eggs from them that we'll put in an incubator.
And they're like beautiful colored?
No, they're just white.
I always see like blue and turquoise eggs.
The chicken eggs are different colors. We have blue chicken eggs, we have beige chicken eggs, and then a deep, dark chocolate brown egg from a copper Moran that is out there. So yeah, the chicken eggs are huge, big beautiness.
Somebody's saying instead of OCD being what it is, that it's obsessive creative disorder.
Yes, but I also say that if you work for me or even in the studio or at my house, whether you're in the garden or in the thing, like my cleaning woman in Millbrook comes with knee pads, you know, like the kind that construction contractors do. Yes. And I like looked at her one day and I go, what are you doing with those? And she goes, I need those to get down on your kitchen floor and scrub your kitchen floor. And I was like, oh, I want this woman to save my life. I am like, no matter what, she could like lose an arm and she would still have a job with me after hearing that. I was
as long as she was on her knees using that arm.
I'm like, I'm like in love with this.
So do you do that in her absence?
No, I can clean the kitchen floor. Actually, Anthony is a cleaner person than I am, and he's apt to get the vacuum cleaner out and to get the Swiffer out, and we clean it that way. Ashley has got those little automatic vacuums that go around and clean. we haven't. The dogs are petrified of vacuum cleaners, so I'm a little bit shy about getting one of those. I think they call them FH.
Yeah, and they just sort of appear. But the approach that you take to all of these things makes me think that you would like to create a world in which everything you touch, taste, not communicate with, but come across, that every single thing be perhaps either something that you can make more beautiful or that you can simply enjoy. Like, you don't want any noise or ugly. And I said that in a nice way. Like, I think that's an awesome, I'm always wanting, when I'm thinking of designing things, I'm always like, why is that ugly? Why haven't we figured that out yet as a culture? And I feel like you think that way all the time.
Yeah, I try to think that way all the time.
Somebody wants to know if you would date Martha Stewart.
Well, Bonnie Williams says that the two of you should just go get married under that fancy pool house you're building up there. I mean, it's funny to see the little bit of jealousy that can be sparred among these women. I mean, none of them have my complete attention, and I try to be equal friends with all of them as they are, but it's interesting to see how that will spurn up every so often with people. Martha and I are very close. I don't know. I mean, she certainly is my star crush, and we spend an awful lot of time together. And I'm very motivated by what she does. And, she's not always the easiest person to be around. I mean, the word out there on the street is not all that far off. And I'm fine with that. I've built myself to deal with somewhat difficult people and know that sometimes somebody's mood is not because of you, it's because of something else that's going on. And it's
why should everybody,
always be in a good mood? It's like, some people, like some roses have more thorns than other roses. It's like I would say some people are prickly, like those roses that are out there.
Yeah, my father was amazing, but he sure had some prickly thorns. And actually, I found that as an adult, if somebody, if men of a certain age, like an age that they could be my father, are older, and if they're a little bit tough, I immediately want to work for them, and I would do anything for them. I mean, I just want to make them happy. And
isn't it funny how we fall into those psychological patterns? Yeah. Like, it's totally it's imprinted in us.
Tough and at the top of their game, because then you're like, well, they've earned the right.
Yes,
because they're tough because they've earned it.
It's also you making your psychological thing work to its best possible thing, because usually those people are very successful people, and those are the ones you want to have as your clients. And you also want to have decisive clients as well too, who says, no, I want the purple lamps, I don't want the pink ones.
You know where you stand with them. They're not going to put up with any crap.
Mm-hmm.
But I sometimes feel like a Dr. Seuss creature being like, will you be my daddy? I will make pillows for you. Is your mother still with us?
My mother's still with us. She's probably listening today, watching it.
My mother's listening for sure. I just saw her.
Love your mom.
What does she think of it all?
She's amazed. And, along the way, when my success started to happen, she described me to one of her friends, and it was quoted some places, being the blue blazer Potter. And that was like my moment of like, okay, I've kind of arrived with my mom. Like, I don't have to worry about impressing her anymore. So that was sort of the moment. And she's really, she's thrilled by it all, and she's the inspiration of a lot of it. My father was a big gardener and had a big vegetable garden, and I worked out there as a little kid and loved it. My grandfather was a big flower gardener, and then my mother was sort of a Martha type who loved to entertain and do her things. And I tell this funny story of being in Great Barrington on a drive home from Cape Cod one year and finding a book on napkin folding, and she went, Mom, will you please buy me the book on napkin folding, please? And she said yes. And I fold these napkins, and then years later, come to like 18-year-old Christopher Spitzmiller, who says that he's gay, and she goes, I had no idea. And I was like, well, there was the napkin.
Did you really have no idea?
There was the me doing your dinners and getting all the table set and all that stuff, and like,
Well, good. She saw you for who you are and nothing else.
no, yeah,
No,
she didn't.
I was talking to my daughter is in the 6th grade, and she has friends who are declaring themselves one way or the other, and meeting resistance in some cases from their parents. And
Yeah.
I was like, who cares who you do the most intimate thing in the world with? Like, that's your business. That's nobody's business to judge. But if you can get napkin folding in on that, then you're really lucky. What somebody wants you to put in more recipes. Do you think you'd ever do a cookbook? Because you are a great cook.
I think
or do we just have to? Do we have to just let everyone know that you're a great cook so they understand that we need this from you?
I think it's like Rizzoli sees that the recipes work and people want stuff like that from me. My vision when I did the book was to create a page of menus for each table that I did. So like you'd have the peony lunch and you'd have what I would ideally serve at this peony lunch. And then you'd have a Easter table and you'd have what I would serve at the Easter table. So I'm hoping that this will spurn a whole lot more books that, maybe Anthony and I can do one together on gardening, and that he is good of a cook, if not better than me. We could do one on cooking. We could do one on Christmas. I'm hoping that there will be more of Clove Brook Farm and more of the magic, and that this is just the first of a beginning of casting a fishing line out there to see if there is. And, they printed 13,000 copies of them. For a first-time author, that's a lot of books. And I was like, how are we ever going to sell that many books? Literally came home like from Stein. I'm like, I don't know how we're ever going to sell those, And my personal goal at the same time was to sell 30,000 of them. And the day that it was released, Rizzoli called and they said, we have gone into a second printing already. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, that is so good. So it shows that there is the demand out there for this kind of book, and people wanting to live a little bit more of a rural life, or even if they can't, let's say somebody lives in Manhattan.
I mean, I'm a city girl. I love to see what you're doing. I love that everything has been given attention and love, and it's aspirational. I would love to be able to cook, but I can't, so I use Grubhub and DoorDash. But I would love that. Like you are living the oops, sorry, Michael. You are living the aspirational dream, no? Are you reading?
I just read it.
Sorry.
I tried to pull this up on my computer to start with, and that was giving me trouble. I couldn't connect, so I just switched over to my phone. I mean, it's amazing. We basically don't need anything other than our phone these days. Like, you can do all of this. I was on a garden conservancy board meeting before on my phone, and I've got a little stand that holds it up here, and it's like crazy how everything is just right there. So,
something along those lines, when I think of how isolated we've been this year, a book such as yours is so personal. It makes you feel connected, and it's about living and community, even though the community is just the farm, and it's the geese and the chickens and you and the flowers and the beautiful works of art. And I feel like for that reason, of course, we all want that book, because we're so adrift. What was I going to ask you about? Do you think Rizzoli would do your book of recipes for Christmas? Because you could do that one really quickly, couldn't you?
They really want to, a lot of people have been talking about the Christmas one, because we do Christmas in a really, really, really big way up at the farm. And that chocolate roll that Anthony has gotten to make, which is a variation of one of my mom's recipes with things that he puts his own frosting on it, and then I make like the little meringue mushrooms to go. And he literally spent one day making the Christmas one that we did. And going into Christmas last year, when we needed to photograph the one in the book, he made, I think, 16 of them. But we used to use caterers at the house, and we've learned that we can give better food than the caterers do. So that we get people to help us, and there's people clean up and make drinks and stuff. But like at the Christmas party, we're at the stove flipping spätzle and making beef
Yeah.
stew. And we had like this huge big vat of beef stew. And, you know, when you're like having 35 people come over for dinner, the amount when you don't cook for that many people all the time is kind of a little bit of a vagueness. And so Ashley came over and Anthony looked at it and goes, do you think it's big enough? And Ashley jokingly goes, I would double it. And of course that ate at his inner child of, you know, like impoverishedness of like, it's not enough. And like, you know, after the party, we had so much beef stew left. We had so much beef stew that we had that Christmas at Anthony's mom's house, and we had several containers that went into the
I would have put it
freezer.
in a container and given it to Ashley for Christmas. She's the one who caused it.
But when was the last, you know, Mary Hilliard does this as well too. You might have gone to one of her parties, but she cooks her own food for her Christmas parties, and you don't see that anymore. And I want to kind of bring a little of that back, and you pick recipes like a beef stew, you know, or something that doesn't have to be made at the last minute for a big entertaining event like that. And you learn to do the things that you work, and you make them enough time that you know, like, this is how it's going to taste, or, you know, it's like, you know, so.
And also that something that you might think of that's humble, like a stew, need not be. It can be just beautiful and festive and celebratory.
What we do to the stew to make it unhumble is we put orange zest in it and
orange
zest in it, and it gives it a nice orange flavor. And we use those spätzles too. There's a market not far from here that is specialized in German stuff. The name is eluding me at the moment, but they make the best spätzle. And so instead of serving like noodles with it, we have these little spätzle noodles with it. So you do little things like that, and you know, people can have that in a salad, and then you give them some dessert, and your whole Christmas dinner is taken care of, aside from some hors d'oeuvres that, you know, we can do.
And the cleanup.
Yeah, well, that's what we have, thankfully, a few other people coming to help us with to do that. So.
Yeah. Now, what did you say in the questionnaire? You said you would eschew anchovies. Was that what you said? For things that you would never have for hors d'oeuvres?
Yeah, nothing too fishy. You know, like I like smoked salmon and we eat that sort of regularly. But like I said, pickled herring and whole anchovies. I like the taste of anchovies in like Caesar salad, and I use the anchovy paste myself to deliver that flavor. But those are things that I think I would sort of stay away from. But other than that, I'm pretty much a congenial good eater and would eat at anything, pretty much at any time if somebody offers it. So
aside from the cookbook that we're all demanding you do, what's 2021 going to be like for you?
Well, there's a lot of books.
What do you hope it's going to be like?
I hope we get the book out there in a good way. I hope that really, you know, that COVID doesn't slow us down and that we're able to do virtual presentations. I'm going down to Palm Beach and I'm speaking for the Four Arts. They've got a theater that seats 700 people that they've taken down to 100. I'm hoping to go to Texas in May. And,
have you had COVID?
No, I've not had COVID. It's funny, like our insular
group. So you have to be much more careful.
Yeah, I'm gonna get the vaccine though. My doctor found something in my chart that I can qualify for, so I'm like gonna, you know, as soon as an appointment is open. But we traveled down to Antigua and we had a week down there, and I felt safe on the plane going down there and felt safe. You know, you just do the same precautions you do here as there, and everything was fine. There was tests before we went, 2 tests down there, and tests.
No, I was just thinking of a book tour.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that definitely brings it down. But if all the people that are going to watch this and listen to you, if we were to give you mini virtual book tours, what would be the perfect format for you? You know, like 10 people in a Zoom who can ask you questions, or what would be the dream?
I don't know, because I'm kind of like a Zoom virgin. Like, you know, my line of work doesn't require a whole lot of communication like this. Like I do it with the Garden Conservancy. I just was on with them, and occasionally I'll do it with Visual Comfort, who I'm a partner with, and we'll have Zoom calls there. So this is a new thing. The other day I gave a talk to the Decorative Arts Society out in Orange County, and I assumed that it was going to be a Zoom call, and I got together the slides, and I submitted all the slides, and I was late in getting them to them, and they write back that night, oh no, we need audio alongside of this. And so the next morning I got up and we recorded it and I sent it all off, and it's all up on their website, and it's good. I mean, it's, you know, speaking this way is a little bit less intimidating than getting up in front of a whole group of people.
You can be defenseless.
The only problem is you don't hear, like, I like humor a lot, and I like to make people laugh, and I like to hear a giggle or a snicker when, like, I say that part about being a ceramic prostitute, where I get it from you. But I'm wondering if when I do this presentation, are people going to be, you know, attuned to this as well?
Well, I, for one, would love to host a book party for you, and we'll figure it out on Zoom, and maybe we can figure out the template that then we can keep going on. And maybe I could buy the X number of books to send to each of the people I invite. And yeah, I mean, I think there's a way to figure this out, and I think it's worth figuring out because the book is really great.
Yeah, by the way, if you want a signed copy, you can go on the website and I'll sign one to you. There's a part in there where you can get a personalized. Great. If you don't put anything in the personalized thing, I just do a generic one of, you know, warm wishes of spring or some warm thing, but that's on there, and we ship all over. There's even a thing on the website now where if you're in Australia, you can get one shipped there, because we had like 5 people who internationally wanted a signed copy of the book. And I'm like, it's going to cost you $125 to get this $35 book, but we'll do it because that's what we do.
I definitely think, you know, this is the way we're going to have to figure things out. And I know so many of us would love to celebrate with you with this, for this great accomplishment. So congratulations. I will work on a Zoom where we can figure this out. And, I know I did something for the ICAA with Markham and in his book, and we were able to speak so that we could have some of that feedback that you said, like, it is very difficult to speak when you're not getting any, like, you know, you hear crickets. So we'll figure
I'm going to do one with for Circle Lighting with Steele from Veranda. She's going to interview me, and we've talked about some of the stuff. And you know, it's funny that all these different things. Steven Stolman for Palm Beach is putting together the slide show himself. Like, he's like, you know, great. I'll just do it. And I'm like, oh my God, can you like be around and do some of the other slideshows I got to give? Like, so. You
know, one other thought before I let you go is that Kips Bay Palm Beach is happening right now. I bet you if you sent them a batch at, you know, a reduced rate so they could save some for the charity, I mean, tons of people would want that, wouldn't they? And that perfect.
Yeah, I get a hold of Nazira because I actually am going to be down there as well too, because it's the date that the for arts talk is the same time as the show house is opening. So I'm happy to, if they're not wanting to do a book signing, I'm happy to have some signed ones there or do whatever.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I'll reach
all
out.
Of those people need
that was on my list of things to do that, you know, has slipped through the cracks of my day. So see, there is stuff I don't get done. I do miss something.
Yeah, sure thing. All right. I love you. You're amazing.
I love you more.
Congratulations. And see you soon.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.